Being in a non-Muslim majority country and feeling like these privileges are not for us, they're only for the white people.
Yeah.
Did you feel an immense amount of pressure to be sort of an example to those around you to try and convert people in any way?
I don't know if I ever thought like I needed to convert anybody, but I do remember sort of shaming people for being not a Muslim or feeling very special about being a Muslim. Even like I remember even looking down at my Hindu friends or my Jewish friends or Christian friends because you're raised to believe that you are the most perfect religion, you're following the most perfect religion, you're the most perfect religious person, and anyone else outside that just isn't with it. Like they're not legit. They are hellbound, and so like you try to hold on to that perfection, and then anyone else you see, you sort of like you're judging them, you're hardcore judging them. There's definitely some people that go to that extent of like trying to convert people. I guess I never really did that because I just loved the fact that I was around like diverse people.
Mm,
I love the fact that I was in the US, and like I think that maybe made me feel special even moving out of my country and moving here. I think as a kid made me feel really special that I finally had the chance to be in the US when so many people didn't. So I wanted to avail that. I wanted to actually like be American. Obviously, down the line as an adult, I realized I don't need to be an American. I can be myself and be American at the same time, right? Like there's a little bit of picking and choosing of who you want to be. And I think that's something that we don't really get growing up Muslim. We don't get a choice.
yeah.
That's really what happens is like you start to lean into making decisions and choices for yourself. And really that's really what kind of sets it apart.
I think that's a really interesting point that you just made that you wanted to be American even though you clearly were American, just doing it in a perceived different way because America is a melting pot of so
Yeah.
many different cultures. But of course, you have this, I guess, social or cultural identity of America being a certain way, especially
Hmm.
when I've interviewed people who did grow up in the Middle East or other countries, and they're like, "Oh yeah, America is just full of these heathens, and they're crazy, dude. Wearing shorts is it's out of this world." While I can agree that America has done some wild things that are not like I'm not
Right.
advocating for, I still think it's interesting that that's the perspective. And so, in your mind you're like, no, I'm not American because I'm not wearing shorts or I'm not wearing tank
Yeah.
tops or going out with friends and doing all the things I want to do that feel, I guess, culturally American.
Yeah.
So, what was your mom's reaction when you start pushing back on all of this stuff? You are drifting away. Does she know you're drifting away? She must have been really worried for your salvation at that point.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think generally my siblings, my parents, like everyone was really worried. I think my parents were really worried that I would just get married to like a white guy and would like not be Muslim anymore. One of their fears came true.
Oh no.
The fact that I like am not a Muslim anymore.
Yeah.
But I think for them it really kind of I think they were just really upset with me all the time because I was pushing that limit constantly. And so, for example, if I would go, like, after begging them to go, and this is college, I'm living at home. Oftentimes in the American culture, everyone's dorming. They're like, after 18, they've left their homes. Meanwhile, here we are, still living at home, still trying to navigate that Muslim bubble. I had a car, but what I was told was it was just for point A to point B, that I go to college and I come back, or I go to work and I come back. But of course, through that time, I was like, oh, I have late classes, but
Mm,
I'd be hanging out with my friends. I have a project, but I'd be hanging out with my friends. And so, like, there's always these excuses that I would try to find to, like, actually do the things I wanted to do. And it was like really innocent stuff, like hanging out with my friends, going out for dinner,
yeah.
watching a movie, going to a concert. Like, it was very normal things, or even dating. Even that, I didn't have any, there was no way that I could even do that because that was a no no as well. And clearly being told, you better not be hanging out with boys, or that you better not be hanging out with any men around you. We better know who you're hanging out with. And so I would sometimes come home at like midnight, and that would be a big deal. If I came home later, it would be a big deal. Like the chain on the door would be on, so I couldn't even get inside the house. There's definitely times where I had to deal with these things and then getting yelled at, shamed, guilted. We're going to send you back home. we don't know why we moved you here. We were better off back home because you wouldn't be doing these things. Just constant this like shaming and guilting and just being told that like I wasn't good enough and that I was ruining my own future by trying to be more American. So that was interesting too, is that hearing that apparently me going out with my friends was an American thing. It wasn't just a normal thing that anybody did.
Mm.
So I think that was just constantly being held against these rules and regulations. But really, at the end of the day, it was just all about control of my mobility and where I went. And then you kind of see, like in Saudi Arabia, there's, you can't travel. You can now without male guardians, but like you couldn't travel without male guardians. And I think there's still that culture there. You heard those horror stories, but like we actually like experience these in our own homes too, which is why like through my doodles I've said things like there's like Islamic regimes, but they're in our homes and in our countries. That Islamic regimes like Iran, the control and the fear that they use, those versions are in our homes too. And that's what we're trying to fight
Mm-hmm.
constantly. And then I think that's what we're trying to fight through our lives too, of just going like, how do I just get an ounce of my own decision making into this? Like, I'm my own person. Why am I not being seen as that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what continued to just kill me on the inside. And really, I mean, I do remember having very suicidal thoughts too through this time and feeling like, what kind of life is this that it's not even worth living? Like if I have to just do everything that they're telling me to do, or if I have to do everything that the Quran says, what's the point of me even having any sense of consciousness? And it's just, yeah, like there are definitely very, very dark days that I went through of just sitting there on a prayer rug, praying to Allah that like, I wish he gives me a disease or like
Wow.
helps me to commit suicide. Like even thinking things like this.
Whoa.
And it was really, I mean, it was really scary. And obviously, there's no such thing as mental health, right? Like, your mental health is okay. You just need to pray more. So, even being told that, like, if something's bothering you, you're shit out of luck in that point, too, that, like, you can't really get help for it. Your only help is Allah. And I'm really grateful that from that college time onwards, really, I met my current ex-Muslim husband, and I feel like he and I provided each other that therapy that we both needed.
Mm.
And that's been just a beautiful thing to have. And again, like feeling that privilege of not a lot of folks are able to find ex-Muslim partners. And I'm really grateful that I did. And both of us are atheists, and both of us have been able to talk about our journeys in a like much more in-depth way. And he's learning about what it's like to be a woman. I'm learning about what it's like to be a man in that space, because yes, we're both experiencing a lot of this shit, but he understood a lot better what it meant to actually be a woman and the double marginalization that happens with us within our own communities.